Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. Today we're going to be covering the Great Nature deck from the Answer of Truth V-EB04 set. It is the last deck that we have to cover in this set, and I told you guys there'd be more videos. I wasn't lying this time. Shots fired. But yeah, we're back with another video and some consistent videos for you guys. I don't think I have really any announcements to say this video, besides to quickly check out our sponsor, up below, up, down below, up everywhere. But yeah, up here and down in the description down below, Dabbers Pro Cards and Games, or Dabbers as we call them for short. They have a website on TCG Player, dabberspro.tcg.com. They are the official sponsor of this channel, and they do a lot for us, so show them some love. They also have a lot of Japanese products in their store. If you live in Georgia, you can go by, check out their store. They have sleeves, deck boxes, all kinds of crazy stuff from Japan, Pokeballs, and if you're into all that stuff. But they also, most importantly, if you play this game, have cards on the day of set release for you guys to buy at competitive prices. So definitely go check them out. But with that being said, let's get right into the video here. So today we're going to be talking about Great Nature, like I said. So we're going to load up our EB04 Great Nature deck. And we don't have an extra deck because this is standard. So we're going to be going right into the build. So Great Nature in EB04 is kind of interesting. Like, Great Nature in standard now is like, a lot of them mill for abilities, and it is an Accel deck, so it is an aggro type of fill your board and try to push your opponent's face in type of deck. But they do mill now, and then based off of what they mill, they get certain effects. So it's kind of different from old Great Nature, where they just retired at the end of the turn and stuff like that. So it is very different, and a lot of people are still adjusting, but I think that it's a cool change for them, especially when you switch over to premium with using them, because your cards don't have to retire at the end phase anymore all the time, and sometimes you can just use your card's abilities and get away with using it really well. Like Geograph Giant, if it's on an Accel circle, will work really well with Crayon Tiger, hitting numbers like 27, 31 on 11K Vanguards in premium. So it could be a very good deck in premium, but we're not here to talk about premium. We're here to talk about standard. So let's get right into the grade 3s. So we have 4 School Hunter Leopold. This is our VR from the set, and probably the best grade 3 in this deck, damn near. But it has 2 Vanguard abilities, so let's talk about those. The first Vanguard ability is if you have a grade 3 in your soul, this unit's auto abilities activate 2 times when it's placed. So basically, that's just saying that if you rode a grade 3 before you rode this card, then this card gets to activate twice. If it's the first time that you're riding this card just gets to activate 1 time. So the ability that you, would be activating is when placed, basically mill the top card of your deck. So put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and then you perform one of the effects below, depending on what the card's type was. So if it was a normal unit, basically anything that's not a trigger, then you do 1 ability, and if it's a trigger unit, anything that is a trigger, then it gets another ability. So if you mill a normal unit, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and call up to 2 grade 2 or less cards from among them to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. Now this card is really, really good. I do wish that this card allowed you to call like any grade, because sometimes you look at, top 4 and there's grade 3s that you just want to call out to the rearguard circle and not having your deck, because you do want to thin your deck when you're using this ability so that you check triggers more often. But it is a really good card nonetheless, because it's Accel. You get to fill your board up without having inherent cost to you, so or wasting your hand. So that's really, really, really good for an Accel deck. Also, if you mill a trigger unit, this unit gets plus 15k in a crit, so it becomes a 27k base, which is good on Accel and Protect, and also on Force makes them guard you a little bit more. And yeah, you just get to go in and start attacking. We don't run crits in this deck. In this version, we just run 8 front triggers, so you can't really double crit your opponent to death from 2 or 3 or something like that. But we like the front triggers a lot more in this build because it protects our rear guards, and then it we overwhelm them after a time with our front triggers because there's just so many units on the board going at them. So, but yeah, continuing on, we have 4 Pencil Hero Hamsuke. So Pencil Hero Hamsuke is our backup grade 3 for this deck, but it's also the grade 3 that you want to ride first if you happen to get the ride chain off in this deck. So the ride chain would be Pencil Knight Hamsuke and Pencil Squire Hamsuke. So you probably want to ride Pencil Squire Hamsuke or have it on the rearguard circle on your very first turn so that you can search out a Pencil Knight if you don't have it already. Ride Pencil Knight and then ride Pencil Hero. So when you ride Pencil Hero, if you have a Pencil Knight and a Pencil Squire in your soul, then you can discard 2 cards from your hand. You get an additional Imaginary Gift Accel, and then you get to search your deck for 1 Pencil Knight and 1 Pencil Squire and call them to rearguard circle, and you shuffle your deck. So not only does this card for discard 2 up your Imaginary Gift game because it makes you ahead of your opponent, especially if you're going first in the Imaginary Gift game. So you start speeding up, you start turboing really, really fast, and you get rearguards out on the board, you get Accel circles out on the board. That way, by the time you ride your first Leopold, not only do you get to use Leopold's skill twice because you have a grade 3 in the soul, but you also will be getting a 3rd Accel circle, which is really hard for your opponent to deal with, especially if you're checking front triggers. So do be looking out for that as well. And like on top of that, instead of just making you discard 2 to get an Accel circle, you discard 2, get an Accel circle, and you get to call 2 Hamsukes to the board. That will be 12k base because your Vanguard will be Pencil Hero Hamsuke, and they both have the skill that makes them 12k base power when you have the Pencil Hero Hamsuke. So very good card, something to look out for as well. As our backup grade 3, we have 1 Armed Instructor Bison. We really only like this card on Vanguard Circle. So I know it's Vanguard Rearguard Circle, but its really good effect is when it's on Vanguard. So when it attacks, you can counterblast 1, choose one of your other rearguards to get it's plus 5,000 power. And then if this unit is on your Vanguard Circle, you can stand that rearguard. So the reason why we only like this on Vanguard Circle is because we want to restand rearguards. Like restanding rearguards in Standard is really, really good, especially because we don't have stand triggers anymore. So it's only abilities that stand cards, and so that ends up being really good. And if it's on the rearguard circle and it attacks just to give 5k, we'd much rather use Binoculus Tiger's ability or something like that and not waste our Counterblast, because Counterblasts can be pretty scarce in this deck between Tank Mouse and Binoculus Tiger. So moving on to the card that we were just talking about, Binoculus Tiger in our grade 2 lineup. It has an ability that says when it attacks Vanguard on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you Counterblast 1 and you put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, so you mill 1 just like Leopold, and then you perform one of the effects below depending on the card's type. If it's a normal unit, you draw a card, so it's a +1, and then if it's a trigger unit, you get to choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and 3 of the units in your front row get plus 5k. So I guess if your opponent has a rearguard, you could also consider it a +1 because it's a -1 to your opponent. So really, really good card for attacking and stuff. Not really much to go into there. Geograph Giant is our next grade 2. If it's on an additional rearguard circle, this unit gets plus 8,000 power. So really, really good on Accel circles. And I pretty much only put it on Accel circles because we want it to be 27k base on an Accel circle. So, and it's 17k base on our opponent's turn as well when it's on a Accel circle. So it's hard for your opponent to attack into and get rid of as well. So continuing on, guys, my computer decided to randomly die on me while I was recording that. So we were in the middle of the grade 2. So getting back to our grade 2 lineup, our next card that we are going to go over was Pencil Knight Hamsuke. I kind of already went over it when I was talking about Pencil Hero Hamsuke, but this card's effect is pretty basic. You only really use it for the ride chain, but its ability on Vanguard Circle is during the battle that it attacks if you have a Pencil Squire, the grade 1 in your soul, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power. And then on Rearguard Circle, if your Vanguard is Pencil Hero Hamsuke, this unit gets plus 3,000 power. I really wish that this card's ability was Vanguard Rearguard Circle, the second ability. So I wish it was Vanguard Rearguard Circle during the battle that this unit attacked. If you have a Pencil Squire in the soul, gets plus 5,000, because that would also help you it would also want you to not Soul Blast for like Binoculus Tiger, but it would also reward you for having these cards in your soul versus having to have a Pencil Hero Hamsuke, Vanguard, for whatever. And then also it would get 5K instead of 3K, so it would be able to hit force by itself. So that would have been really cool to have, but I guess that maybe would have been too powerful. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Monoculus Tiger. So Monoculus Tiger, sorry, Pikachu wanted to review the cards too, but having you know, 4 Monoculus Tiger in the deck, I don't really use it that often because it doesn't do what I thought it did. I thought that this card said when it attacks or boosts, but it actually says when it attacks or boosts a rear guard. So we can't boost Vanguard with it and make our opponent take an attack with crits from Leopold. So it's not as good as I thought, but it is still a decent card, I guess, because it has guard restrict on your opponent. So when this card attacks or boosts a rear guard, you can Soul Blast 1, mill the top card of your deck, and then if it's a normal unit, your opponent can't guard with Sentinels, which was the really good part when I thought that it was a Vanguard thing. And then if it's a trigger unit, then your opponent can only call trigger units from their hand until the end of the battle. So that's really good as well. So if your opponent's at 5 damage and you're attacking them with this or attacking with something boosted by this, you might as well use the ability just to add it, just to make it a little harder for your opponent to guard if you mill a trigger. So next up we have 4 Pencil Squire Hamsuke. Talked about this when I talked about Pencil Knight and Pencil Hero, so the hamsters are getting repetitive, but basically its first ability on the rear guard circle is it becomes 12K if you have a Pencil Hero, Hamsuke, Vanguard. And then the secondary ability is actually something worth talking about because this is really, really good. But at the end of your turn that it's on the board, you can Soul Blast 1 and put this card into your soul, and then you search your deck for up to 1 Pencil Knight Hamsuke. So, and then put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this card alone makes this Ride Chain combo a little more consistent, or like a lot more consistent, I would say, because a lot of times you're not just going to start out the game with Pencil Squire, Pencil Knight, and Pencil Hero all in your hand. A lot of times you're going to start out with like a Pencil Squire and a grade 1 and a Pencil Hero, but maybe not like a Pencil Knight, or maybe you'll start out with a Squire and a Knight but not a Hero. But regardless, you want to always have a Squire, because if you have a Squire and a Hero, it also makes your opening hand guaranteed ride, because no matter what you put back and add, as long as you have another grade 1 to ride and then use the skill of Pencil Squire Hamsuke on the first turn that you get to get a Pencil Knight, so you're guaranteed a ride to grade 2. So really, really good in that way, especially because Accel usually doesn't, usually they're not given tools like that. But I guess the later we get on in the game, the more tools Accel and other decks are given because of power creep. So yeah, not much to say about that. But rounding out our grade 1 lineup, we have 4 Tank Mouse. This is basically just to add more resources to our hand when we are milling important cards like PGs, triggers that have high guard shield and stuff like that. So when a card is put into your drop zone from your deck, you can counterboss 1 to return that card to your hand, and you may only return 1 card even when several cards were put at the same time. So unfortunately, you can't counterboss 1 and return all the cards milled by Leopold, because that would be broken. But you can return like cards 1 at a time that you mill. So like, let's say that you're using Leopold twice, you would finish out Leopold's skill, so you would mill 2, and then that's also good for you because Tank Mouse goes on standby, and then you get to counterboss 1 and choose which one of those 2 are more valuable to you that you want to take. So a lot of times I'll accidentally mill a PG, or I'll mill a heal, so we just get those, or a front trigger, because those are useful for shield to get those against our opponent. So our grade 0 lineup is pretty typical for a standard deck, especially one built by me, because I believe that all Accel decks should run front triggers, because front triggers are really good, and I feel like why would you not use an advantage that Bushiroad tries to give you over other decks that you have to compete against. And it makes it really hard to for Force to guard if you hit a front trigger. Like if you hit double front trigger against a Force clan, like they're really struggling. But if you hit crits, it's like they're like okay, like, you know, what about it? So you might as well run fronts in this deck. There are only like a couple different Accel clans where I would suggest not running fronts, but yeah, we run 8 front, 4 draw, and 4 heal. So not much to say about that. And let's get right into the games here while we're talking about that at the same time. So, opening up our Cardfight area here. Pikachu's falling. Okay. We had to save Pikachu for a minute because secretly we're Ash Ketchum and we can't let Pikachu fall. Alright, so loading up Great Nature Game 1. We're playing against Old Shadow Paladin. So somehow I lost my Genesis gameplay, but I didn't lose the Great Nature gameplay, so it was weird. But we hit a draw trigger, and like I said, we searched out the Pencil Knight just so that we have a guaranteed ride that we want to ride. Also, our opponent rode Blaster Dark, so it's good that we got that rearguard out of the way. And then our opponent tried to use Javelin, but they couldn't because they didn't have 2 or more grade 2s on the board. But we did check a front trigger, making it harder for our opponent to guard, like I said, and we hit 27, and we searched out another Pencil Knight. Now that is actually something that I should not have done, just because once you get one Pencil Knight, I forgot to mention this, but once you get one Pencil Knight, you should probably not search the rest out of your deck, because once you get Pencil Hero, if you happen to use Pencil Hero multiple times, you want to leave the board open for you to be able to do that. So we do use Leopold, we mill, and we got a crit trigger, so our opponent takes 2 damage. We do get a front, so we attack our opponent for 37, and then we attack our opponent for 37 again. So our opponent only has 3 cards in hand and had to ride Bob Dakar, so it wasn't good for him, and then he just like took an imaginary damage without it being my turn yet, so he basically just conceded, and he realized that he couldn't win that game, so yeah, he basically just conceded. But moving on to our next game, we have Great Nature 2. So we're actually playing against Tachikaze this time. I actually don't remember this game, which is cool because I get to just cover it from a non-memory standpoint. But we take a damage from his Vanguard, we ride Hamsuke, we attack for 15, we get a front trigger. Second game in a row that we got a front trigger on turn 2, so that's pretty broken of us. So he plays Rex and he plays Mammoth, all these cards set up. We guard the attack, we guard the first attack, and then we let the other ones hit. We actually ride Bison, restaying a card because of Bison. We check no triggers, and then we attack for 21. Bison's really, really good, especially when you have a Panda. I'm forgetting what the card is called, but like the Panda Bear card on the board. But we do check a front trigger on defense, so that's good. And then our opponent attacks our rear guard, and then we get a draw trigger on Vanguard. So thankfully we get Leopold. However, I did think that it was oh yeah, so we milled a trigger, we got a crit and power, and then we attacked as well. So we actually have Silver Wolf in this build, in this recording, which is weird, but I must have been playing a different build. But Silver Wolf's ability is win into the back row, gets 4K. I ended up cutting that card from my build because it just wasn't as good in my opinion. So you guys can kind of ignore that. But our opponent's putting a bunch of freaking equipped gauges on one card, and then he's probably going to switch them over. Oh, wait, never mind. He just retired it. Just to, yeah. So, I basically said, oh, my Wamo. I called Hamsuke. I called another card, and then I called another card. I attacked a Vanguard, hoping to hit a front trigger, but I did not, and then he hit a crit trigger. So I was like, wow, we probably lose now because of that, after I said, oh, my Wamo. So, basically, I no-guarded his Vanguard, and we just ended up losing that one, even though we could have won if we just checked a single front trigger. But that was unfortunate. So we did end up losing the game to Tachikaze, but we had the advantage most of the game. But Tachikaze is just another one of those Accel clans that gets like so much advantage. Like they're probably still, in my opinion, the Accel clan that gets the most advantage, because they just get ridiculous amounts of advantage and power, and it outspeeds you and it gets ridiculous. But we're playing Shadow Paladin for the third game. We ride a Tank Mouse just to put Hamsuke on rearguard circle. To get a grade 2 Hamsuke. So we ride grade 2 Hamsuke, and our opponent calls Blaster Dark, so we retire, and then we take 3 damage because we don't really have that great of a hand. We do use Pencil Knight skill to discard 2, call 1, so we attack with Vanguard. We're still not checking any triggers. Our opponent is checking triggers though, which sucks for us. because this puts us in a really bad spot. But fortunately for us, our opponent has to ride Dictator. He did have the Phantom Blaster, but I don't know why he wouldn't ride it in this scenario, because I would have totally been screwed. But he attacked my Vanguard, I no-guarded, and then we used Leopold's skill, and we milled 2 normal units, so we got to refill a board for free. On top of that, we checked the draw triggers, so that's really good. Started recovering in this game really fast. So we attacked for 24 and then 32. So now he's in a bad scenario because he didn't ride PBD on the first turn that he could have. So he attacks our Vanguard for 24. We PG the second one, and then we discard the third one. We don't have another Leopold to ride, but we do get the Panda. So we attack. We get a heal trigger. Our opponent doesn't check a trigger, so we just go in, just go ham. Go hamskate, if you will. But yeah, so we were totally gonna lose that game if our opponent rode PBD, but I guess he just didn't have the insight to see that if he rode PBD, he would have won. Especially because I'm Accel and I would have lost on my rear guards for it. But he also would have had the crit to be able to kill me, because I had to take Vanguard because I had 5 cards in my hand. So I feel like we should have lost that game, but you know, who's to say? We could have healed out of it. I don't remember what our if we would have healed the next turn or whatever. But yes, that has been the video, the FutureFight Vanguard video for Great Nature Deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment down below letting me know what you thought of the video. Be sure to check out our sponsor Dabbers. Say goodbye to Pikachu. And with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.